Welcome to Blue Collar Mystics, the under-the-hood approach to the depths of human consciousness. So many mysteries, so little time, so many big words. That's why we aim to take the mystical and make it practical, usable in your everyday life. And you know, we want to hear from you. We want to hear your story. What happened when you started asking yourself the real questions? Like, who am I? What is this? Is it a hologram? Is this some kind of weird cosmic joke? Hey, these are the questions that we are trying to get to the bottom of as we explore the final rabbit hole together here as Blue Collar Mystics. Right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the show, Blue Collar Mystics. I got some amazing people on, as per usual. We're going to have an awesome stream tonight. I had a really empowering chat with Satan today, so it's been a very amazing and productive day already, and I hope that the hits just keep on coming. I want to remind you guys, we have a... to connect with us on Telegram and we have a Facebook group. We have a bunch of links in the descriptions. Be sure to rate and subscribe to the podcast. It costs you nothing and it really helps us, even though algorithm on YouTube probably just disregard it, but that's all right. We're on all the other platforms as well. Big thanks to our friends at Content Safe who know how to hack stuff. So we're on all these other weird platforms where, we get a lot of hate mail. But if you're on there, we still love you. And also want to say we're going to bring the spaceship to Mount Shasta next year. So definitely come and hang out with us and the Grimerica guys. And last bit of thing here, click the link in the description to get that Blueprint to Happiness guide and get Admiral Hitz's 8-day mentalism course on us. Absolutely on the house, just to throw some love your way. Thanks so much for coming to hang out with us. I have an awesome group of friends here who are on the show. We want to talk about purpose. We want to talk about fulfillment and chasing our bliss, these kind of wonderful things. And I invited some of my favorite folks to come and chat about their experiences and share with us. So I have Tiff Fede. She is... Embodied Soul Goddess on Instagram, and we'll talk about all the amazing things she can do. My friend Abbie Johnson, who is my most favorite dream weaver in the truest sense, and mentally and physically, spiritually as well, metaphorically, all that stuff. A wonderful archetype and human being. Of course, my good friend, Mr. Admiral Hitzz, joins us, and he's got a hell of a story himself. Talk about being on purpose. He's just squeezing this in. Thank you for being here, my friend.
Thanks for having me.
He's a busy man. And of course, last but certainly not least, my good friend Isaac Benjamin, who has started posting his podcast called Scrubs in the Trenches. Isaac, you want to tell us a little bit about what you have going on there with your show?
Yeah, I appreciate it. So I'm a registered nurse. I've been nursing for about 13 years. And just about was ready to lose my mind with COVID and everything that was going on. So thanks to Owen, he kind of pushed me. He's like, hey, why don't you use some of that energy, talking about podcast all the time. So why don't you actually make one? So Owen kind of pushed me to, I guess, just try it. And I don't know, season 1 might be kind of boring, as my last guest kind of told me in person. He's a nurse I work with. So little constructive criticism from a coworker. He's like, you're too funny to just have a boring show. So hopefully this next episode, it'll come out June 1st. And check it out.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's on all the platforms, called Scrubs in the Trenches. And it's been a lot of fun working with Isaac to get that podcast up and going. I thought your first season was really good, actually, myself.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. It was interesting to be doing that timely the way that it was. You know what I mean? But dude, thank you so much. Isaac is one of the people that I know who's always known what he needed to do, and he's always just done it. Everybody has a different sort of unfolding. It wasn't that way for me. I tried a bunch of different things and ultimately found my way through a lot of trial and a lot of error Tiff, do you want to kind of share a little bit about your backstory? Just tell us a little bit about where you're at now and where you're coming from.
Oh man, well, I remember where I was when we first connected, and it was after my husband had just passed away. And prior to that, I was already doing, spiritual work, but I didn't get it. I was like dipping my toe in and playing in that world, but all of the magic that came after that was through like, oh wait, I have to look at myself, and then everything around will change and transform. And I got that, like a lot of that I got from working with you. And it catapulted me to like, now I'm living I'm like literally just watching all of the stuff that I saw for myself fall into place. But it came from like following my heart and trusting myself, and also reflection, and kind of shifting some things about myself and being okay with that. And like relationship dynamics have changed, so now I do intuitive, weird, strange body work and light language and my magic stuff. Like I feel like a cosmic medicine woman of God's love or something. It's like, it's crazy, and it just gets deeper and deeper and crazier, and I love it. I'm just like here for the ride of it, but I wouldn't have, I mean, I'm sure I would have at some point, but RT and a lot of taking time, being okay to not be constantly, a lot of like receiving an education and just healing and transforming, and time in nature led to like, oh, now I get to shine and be fully embodied. And it's so fun.
You are definitely shining. Everywhere you go, there's a shimmer that's left there, and it's awesome. I love seeing it. I do remember, when we first talked, for sure, because I think I was on like a production too, and we had like a session in the morning, and I had a friend that at that point, this girl actually, we wound up seeing each other for a little while. She was like, "You should take a Epsom salt bath. You'd like to kind of get, because I didn't even think about it too. Just, when you're dealing with people, there's, you're kind of, you're getting that energy and all that stuff. It's good to kind of, just wash off and take like a salt bath. That stuff's supposed to be really healing and gets all that toxins and stuff out. And and man, we've stayed in touch, and I'm just really grateful that we've stayed in touch over the past probably 2 or 3 years now, something like that.
I was in the throes of it. And you were like, I saw your face on Jess Reed's whatever thing she was doing, and I'm like, that guy. I don't know. I want that guy. And I was like, hey.
Oh, Imagination Project, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And you were the one of all the faces. You were the face, and that's like trust in this. It was like him. I don't know why, but it's him. And like there was some intense stuff going on with family and with man. It was intense. And it
is. It's intense. We all have crazy, intense shit that happens, and I am just grateful that I'm able to, be able to just, be a support structure or whatever. And it winds up being the coolest too, because when people succeed, like there's a huge celebration, there's dancing and a lot of reason to celebrate, because, it's kind of like, I heard a mentor say this to me years ago. It's like, if you do it all by yourself, there's nobody to high five when you get to the top. So it's a lot more fun to work in a group and, collaborate and do all those things, or at least it is to me. And, understanding that and what those dynamics are and doing that in a healthy way is, simple, but not always easy. But I think it's a lot more rewarding too. And I think that's where we're headed, is like toward more interdependence. Abbie, do you want to talk to us a little bit about yourself and how you find yourself where you're like a muscle builder now? What do you even call that? Bodybuilder.
A bodybuilder.
Oh my God, look at that. You're like chiseled, like made of like stone, just and you physically transformed because you wanted to start taking care of your body and doing all kinds of weightlifting stuff, which I tried to go to the gym and I'm not so good at it, but I'm good at going out into the woods, right? Like I'm like a lumberjack fairy or something. I can't go to the woods, but I can go to the woods, but I have a hard time going to the gym. But no, tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey, especially over the past few years.
Well, it all started with me with the same concept, the same idea that Tiff was just mentioning, reality transurfing, and you were the voice of that. So that really kind of the unofficial voice, but it was the official voice for a lot of us who have been in the circuit for a while, and it really changed my paradigm. And from there, I don't know, I got to work with you, which was awesome. And you really showed me the value of things that I found came naturally to me, like dreaming. And you helped me to explore, my natural gift, which I just thought was something that everybody does and that it wasn't that big of a deal. But you showed me that it was. And that was part of my purpose, was to, help other people realize that their dreams are possible, or that their dreams aren't meaningless too. So, I have really delved into dream experimentation, and in a group, also that's what I love about working with you, is that you kind of, you help people after the fact, realize their dreams. So you've helped connect me to a lot of people that are also interested in dreaming. So we experiment, I interpret dreams, and definitely, I do Reiki and trauma healing as well. So, and that actually was because I met you as well. So you're kind of like the catalyst to all this. So,
well, that's cool. That's nice and all. I'm not trying to take credit, because here's the truth. If you've done work, you've done the work, and you've done a lot of work. So, like, I think it's really important. It takes a village, is what they say. And, I need to get a village hired because my air conditioner is out and I'm gonna melt on this fucking. I'm gonna melt on this fucking live stream. It's so hot in here, but it really does. I say it all the time, and I mean this. Like, I want as many people as possible to figure out what their purpose is, what their reason for being is, because the more people that do that, the better the quality of our existence gets. So, to me, that's the most powerful and encouraging place to start, and it sounds maybe a little bit, I don't know what you would say, like tongue-in-cheek, maybe cliche, maybe cheesy or corny, but sometimes the truth is just fucking cheesy or corny, and I know for a fact that you're not here for no reason. I went and saw that new movie that's out, Everything All at Once, All the Time. I thought it was really a cool, fun movie. I won't spoil too much, but I enjoyed it. But they must have been like 3 separate times where they were saying that nothing matters. And I think that's bullshit. Like, I don't necessarily know that or claim to know what the meaning of things are for anybody else. But the idea that nothing matters, I think, is a little bit of a toxic black pill that tries to get like thrown in, to different, ideas or movies or whatever, just to kind of push people into this sort of deterministic kind of like lack of like ability to change things, stuck in a rut, maybe even nihilistic, right? Like sort of view. And so, as cool as that movie was, and I do recommend like going to see it because it was well put together, I would just say, watch out for these little, what do they call them?
Easter eggs.
Easter eggs. Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Isaac. Yeah. Easter eggs, like life has no meaning or whatever, because that's not true. And my argument to that too, if you do, you're welcome to believe whatever you want to believe, right? Like, I'm not going to argue with somebody, but if you don't want to believe that like you have a special purpose or a destiny or whatever, then you can kind of make up whatever that is, right? Like, you can determine or define it. It doesn't have to be this like big, scary ordeal to sort of unravel. But for me, that was the big challenge that I had, because I thought, and I went through life all the time just like what am I here for? What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do or give or this or that? And I was very eager and very excitable and ready to find whatever that is. And it took me even longer to find it because I couldn't like just even relax and even see the most obvious things ahead of me. James, if you want to talk a little bit about like, because man, I know that you've had an incredible life and a really cool story. So if you want to talk a little bit about your path, I'd love to hear that too.
Oh boy. Well, honestly, I would say that, you were a little bit towards the end of, a lot of culmination came all at once, but, you introduced me to transurfing and that tied a lot of things together. But, I was doing a lot of things even in our program, not intentional to heal, but was doing them but out of curiosity and things like that, and writing my story, and learning the trivium, learning about the Enneagram, being introduced to transurfing. It all kind of in a culmination with my own medicine, and I got a taste of my own medicine, and it kind of just unified all those subjects and put me into an alignment. And that was 2 years ago, or a year and a half. And I wasn't looking for any of it, and I guess that's why it came so easy. But it came at the tail end of a really deep, dark shadow period, and then the world was falling apart for COVID, and I already got out of a depression. I was going to let the news put me into another one, and I just started creating and doing a lot of things that were key, that are key to healing, but wasn't really aware of it, and unintentionally got the greatest gift of my life, and with the emotional freedom that I've received from that. I just really want to share. And I was lucky enough to have something that I already created that was touching the world in a very positive way. And now, I get to parlay that into other things. And we started Owen and I started working together, working on something I tabbed a long time ago called the Blueprint to Happiness. And, it's just having this emotional freedom wants to help me share it with others, essentially.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Thank you so much for sharing.
That's a short story.
Yeah, no, and we're putting together the more juicy, the juicy version for people because the question you get often asked the most is, how did you come about this crazy, this crazy contraption and doing the thing that you do, which is so cool and unique and different. And so we're putting all that together so that people can, check out that story and amassing, a lot of resources, honestly, into the future. I'm really excited about, and that's really why, I keep doing this, because I have so much fun, learning new things and discovering things with people and collaborating with them. Like James and I, since we started working together, like I've been held to a better standard, right? Like there's accountability now. So now if I say, I'm going to have X, Y, or Z done by a certain day, instead of just me telling myself that, and maybe I'll get it done, or maybe I won't, or maybe I'll just, do whatever today. Now I actually have someone that I'm a little bit more beholden to. So using that power of leverage and using that power of accountability.
Accountability buddy.
Accountability buddy is the best. I know. So that's something we definitely want to implement. And I think that when it comes to the coaching idea, people work in groups sometimes, people work one-on-one sometimes. And I think both of those have their benefits. And actually that's something that I learned from one of the guys who teaches in our course, because one of the things that I tried to do when I was putting it together was to try to find people who are experts about things that, I wasn't. Like I didn't know about the Enneagram. I haven't been studying that my whole life, so I found somebody who did, right? And so Mike Nimitz actually came in and taught us about strategy. He's a project manager. He's in the military, all that. So he came and taught us about that, and that was one of the things, that was really standoutable about all of the putting these different elements together, because each one of them was impactful and integral to oddly enough, like for the Enneagram, for instance, for James as a screenwriter, like he uses the Enneagram in order to figure out the story structure and how the rise and fall of action is going to happen in the story, and a lot of other things, which is crazy. And so like that was a very impactful thing for him to learn, and then I was learning it for just our own awareness, like understanding ourselves in context and being able to do that. But we wound up parlaying this and moving it forward too. That's another thing that's really cool too. Like I know, Tiff, you're working on a book now, and we talked about that. And that's something that we know how to put it together. We know how to do all of those things. So
and you were the person I called because I knew you knew how to. Yeah.
Because I'm a big nerd and I like to do stuff,
Have you heard of the concept of, I just heard this today, of your business, it's sun sign, it's this astrological chart of like the birth of your business, and how like when you birthed it, or maybe an aspect of it into existence, like if you birthed it during Leo season, it has a different energy than if you birthed it during Libra season. Instagram is a Libra. Just thought that was interesting.
That is interesting. Yeah, there's all kinds of you know what they say about astrology. Like they say that millionaires don't believe in it, but billionaires do. And so I think there's definitely something to that. That's not something that I'm personally an expert at, but again, like that's something that, there's a lot of different systems too. We had Athen Chiminti. I did a podcast with him, and he has done some really cool stuff as far as like mastering the zodiac is his thing. And there's a lot of different ways to look at all this stuff, and it's really fun. I think that's what's cool about it, is you can stack all these knowledge systems on top of each other. Like you stack strategies of marketing on top of each other, and then you can see yourself in different ways. I know that Abbie, you've studied some of the, what do they call that kind of astrology?
Athen calls it true sidereal astrology, but it's also called sky astrology because it goes off of the actual sky. So if you actually like pull up you can get a star map on your phone where you can, look up and you can see the constellations, and it tells you, but it'll show you where the planets are. And if you look at where the planets are right now, it's not going to be where tropical astrology tells you they are. In the actual sky, you'll see that the moon is in, I actually have no idea where it is now, but like, for example, my birthday is in December, and normally that would make me a Sagittarius, but where the sun actually was when I was born, because not every sign is 30 degrees. There's actually 13 signs, because it's what's on the ecliptic, and Ophiuchus is on there as well. And not everyone is exactly 30 degrees. They just averaged them. And if you go off the actual sky, some are like only 20 days and some are longer. So I'm actually a Scorpio, and I never resonated. I didn't even believe in astrology. And then Athens system, going off of where the stars actually were and the planets actually were when I was born, it makes so much sense.
Yeah, some people like totally get into it. And he is he was such a smart guy too. When I interviewed him, like he was in the Navy, he was like a naval officer for years and years and years. And then he got into, because I guess he was really into computers. And so that's one of the things that he likes so much about true sidereal astrology, is because now that we have computers, like that's why they rounded, is kind of what he said. Like they rounded everything to 30 and just was like, oh yeah, that's close enough, because they couldn't track it exactly precisely. But with modern,
and it was accurate like 2,000 years ago.
Right. It's also
if you didn't count the 13th sign. Yeah.
Right. It's also shifting like every age or whatever, however many years. It's also slightly changing and adjusting all the time too overall. So they can take that into account, which is pretty interesting. And so that's another amazing system. Human design, is also an amazing system. You know, there's people who are really, really, really talented at that. I'm lucky to know one myself, and there's just so many like really cool things to check out and to learn and understand. And you know, I think the beauty of it is to try to get the things that really matter as much as you can, with the least amount of extra stuff, right? Like, how do you get to the point as quickly as possible without wasting people's time, right? Because it's not about having like 87,000 bonuses or whatever, because it's like, dude, I don't need 87,000. Like most people that I know, they're like, dude, I don't want another like long ass video to watch. You know what I mean? If somebody sends me an hour long clip to my phone, especially if they don't give me a reason, man, there's no way that's falling through the cracks. I promise. You know, it could be my sister, my dad, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's probably not going to get the click. You know what I mean? But it's just
an hour of my time.
Yeah, right. An hour is a long time. So being able to, and,
especially
you know,
if it doesn't get to the point within like a minute.
Right. Exactly. Exactly right. Yeah. So, I mean, I just get really quickly, you know, it's not even boredom. It's just that we have so much information coming at us all the time, and we have to choose what's important and what's not, you know, which is one of our biggest superpowers. And then, you know, at that point, if I wind up looking into that video for an hour, what am I really going to probably get out of it? Right. Like if there's nothing applicable, then what, you know? So anyway, I don't know. I say all that to say I love all the different models and modalities out there. Everything's sort of resonates different for people, but I think it's important too to just build, you know, on a strong foundation. That's why, you know, we kind of picked the eight main things, spread that out like a buffet, and let everybody kind of like go through and have an understanding of everything. And then from there, you can take it as deep as you want. Some people will study the Enneagram or astrology to incredible depths, or the Law of One, or the 8 circuit model of consciousness, you know, or whatever, right? Like they'll just get super curious or interested about one specific thing. And that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. As well. So I do want to stay on topic about purpose. I just realized that I'm kind of like rattling off and talk a little bit about that. Like one of the most important things that I talk about when I go on other podcasts, I talk about this a lot. But I'd love to, you know, pass the ball around too. And if you guys are willing to open up, if you're comfortable talking about that, what you feel to be your purpose, or and as well as maybe how you discovered that. I would love to hear about that, and I'm happy to share. But if anybody is interested or willing to talk a little bit about that, I would absolutely love it. Tiff, you're shaking your head. So
I think purpose shifts too, depending on timelines and where you're at in life. So, definitely been on purpose in several different things.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it definitely changed. We shift. We're dynamic beings. We're meant to transform, right? And not just stay. We're not statues, these stagnant beings. We're supposed to shift and morph and change. For me, purpose was, it has shifted. Like there's this, and there's different levels of it too. So like I have the purpose as a mother to create a safe space for my child to thrive and be an autonomous being, while honoring him and also honoring myself. And for my purpose for helping others is to just show them that the truth of like following this excitement and like doing for yourself, serving yourself really, truly does help the others around you. If you're not if you're doing everything for everybody else and burning yourself out, then you're not able to cope with the things that come at you from the outside circumstances, or even the inside. So like for me, dancing, getting out in nature, listening to music, like if I'm not doing that, then I'm unable to better respond in events that happen, in this household with people that might trigger me at other times if I haven't gone and taken care of my needs. And then like letting go of that, the essence, and we've talked about this, of being so offended by things, by others, by people. Like if someone doesn't text you back or what, like all of it, just like, this is where who cares? Like it doesn't matter. And like we choose to allow it to matter. So like coming back to choice and the choice to face that thing that like fires you up, that gives you like maybe a feeling of fear, but like that, like before you go on stage, but you're supposed to do it. It's like there's a reason you're lit up from the inside. It's a little bit scary, but then you cross over that threshold and you've created this whole new, you're creating this whole new reality, this new version, because you're not playing in that old fear game anymore, and you're realizing the essence of your power by getting down into the body and not trying to escape anymore. And when we stop trying to escape and we bring it down within and we get in touch with this tangible being that we are, then like magic really can happen. And so there's so many different levels of it, but a big one definitely is like, man, when you stop caring in that way and being like, it's just so freeing. It is so freeing. Life just gets elevated easier, because then that helps you to go with this, because you're not doing only what you think, because you don't care if others do what they want. You wanted them to do what they want. If you're busy, go be busy. It's okay. I'm here. And so like, I'm going to go do my thing and you be there, and we're all like vibing and good. Like we can be that, we can have that, we can do that if we all just like do the thing that feels good. That's so easy. It's freaking easy.
Yeah, Joseph Campbell said, follow your bliss, right? Like that was his big thing, right? Like one of the things I love, and I'm stealing this from a brewery of all places, but there's a place just right down the street here in our hometown here where Isaac and I live, and it's called Creature Comforts. And I did the little brewery tour a few years ago, and the guy was like, yeah, the reason why we call ourselves Creature Comforts is because if you follow your curiosity will lead to your passion will lead to your purpose, and your purpose will lead to fulfillment, and then you can have the creature comforts of life, right? So that's how they named their whole brand, based on this idea.
That's awesome.
And I honestly, I was like in tears, like at the brewery tour, right? Like the last place that I thought that I would get, some nugget of truth like that. But I think that's so true and so good. And, the idea of layers, like I couldn't agree with that more. We can talk a little bit more about unpacking it, and because there's no wrong way really to do anything, right? Like it's really what matters to you, how it works for you, and what the practicality is for you. I can talk about my experience, and that might help you understand or give you a frame of reference for what I've gone through, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be the same for you.
Yeah, and something that I've enjoyed working with you is the fact that you do say go for your passion. So like Abbie really likes dreams, so she followed that. With me, I don't see myself so much as a nurse as a healer. So it's like using my talents to go in, like especially during the COVID crisis. Like I never really once was afraid going into a room like I'm hugging these COVID patients. Like it's just like like just bring that energy where it's like that negativity that was COVID, like it's not going to penetrate me, I'm going to be okay. So I just think following that passion and just, that's something that you really brought out of me. It's like, you're not a nurse, like you're a healer, like go out there and, heal through starting a podcast, helping these people in the hospital, wherever, become a nurse coach and like step up you one, be like, oh, so you're a life coach, I'm a nurse coach.
Oh snap. Watch out, dude. Yeah, dude, I'm working on a bit right now, and I'm like, sometimes I'm jealous of my clients, right, because they're so successful. But no, dude, you really are. And anybody who has anybody who has the luxury and the opportunity to have Isaac as their nurse, I mean, he's like 6'7" of love and awesomeness. He's like a giant gazelle, you know what I mean? Like, that's just gonna come in there, and he's also graceful though. Don't worry, you know. But yeah, anybody who has the luxury to have you as a nurse, they're very lucky. So and that's true. I love that you've dug deeper into that, because that's really where that sort of juice is, that you can still be a healer in so many different formats, right? And like, that's the big like thing that I think most people get hung up on. I did. That's why it took like 8 years. I'm like, oh, well, I'll go around. I've got to be a raft guy. That's what my purpose is. I've got to be a musician, rock star. That's what my purpose is. I've got to be a comedian. That must be what my purpose is. Or like whatever, bartender, like doorman, whatever it was, right? Cosmic doorman. Yeah. But
it was an occupation, not, yeah.
Exactly. But that's how I viewed it, right? And I think a lot of people get caught up in that, like the sort of surface of that, but it's got to be maybe something a little bit deeper than that, right? Like to really,
you helped me see that for sure. Yeah, like you can infuse that, you can bring that to any role that you're doing, right? Like you're out there healing your kids, like yeah, with spankings, not
right? Exactly. But yeah, like for me, I try and for me, what I believe my purpose is to bring people joy. I discovered that because I was very curious, and I was reading a lot of books, and I found this one by Steve Pavlina, and I don't know really if he's around anymore, but he gave this exercise, and I give it as often as I can, to sit down and just write what you think your purpose is. Like, I mean, it's a very simple exercise for like 20 minutes, like set an egg timer or whatever, phone timer, and just write it down. Write down for 20 minutes. It doesn't matter. There are no wrong answers. But when you write something that like you truly resonate with, or that makes you cry, which that's me. I'm just a big crier. Like a lot of the people that I've worked with, they're like, I don't cry. And I'm like, okay, well, you know what I mean? Like you get that feeling, right? Like you're about to well up a little bit. You're like, oh, that's the one, right? And that's the first exercise I ever did about purpose. And of course there are many, many, many others, but I find that one, every time I share that with somebody and they actually do it, they usually have some pretty amazing results to report. It might not be in that minute, right? Like I've talked to people too and tell them to do that, and then they'll go out and they'll be like, somebody told me the coolest story. We just had a phone call, and I told him that, and I told him a couple other exercises, and he said that he was out at a restaurant and he started like playing with this, like some of his food to the waiter, and they started laughing and giggling, and he was like, oh my God, I get it. I'm here to like facilitate play or something like that, like to like make games out of stuff and have fun with people. And so it just clicked for him. And so I've seen that happen with people, where they did kind of get this like aha moment, like, oh, okay, that's something, because it's hard to see yourself, it's hard to be seen. It's even harder to see yourself,
I had a good experience with that exercise too. So I, definitely identified as purpose as a profession, and that's where so many of us are wrong, and I've actually learned that I kind of like not identifying as a noun anymore. I like verbs, because that's what I do, instead of who I am. I'm not going to limit myself with those words, but that being said, I am a dreamer, so I'm okay with adding that. But I did the exercise, and I was getting so frustrated because I was writing and writing. It sounded kind of redundant, all the same stuff, but it really just didn't resonate like it should have. And I stepped away from it for a couple of days, and then I went back to it, and I started writing again. And then all of a sudden, it just dawned on me, the word I was missing was dream. It had to be in there. So it was simple. It was just, to help people realize that their dreams are possible. And the funny thing is that that's true on many levels for me, because not just, I do trauma healing and limiting belief work, but I also, as far as dreaming goes, I help people who quit dreaming as well. So I help them be able to restart their dreams. So, it's on many levels. But yeah, It was something simple like that. And before that, I thought it was teaching because I'm smart and I love to learn and everything. But teaching isn't. It's a product of doing what you love, right?
I think so. I mean, I get a lot of joy out of teaching, and yeah, exactly, doing what you love, what you're passionate about, and then just sharing that, right? Like that's, I think, the essence of teaching. But yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, Abbie does a lot of work. Like you helped your children like learn to lucid dream so that they could stop their nightmares. I've been doing the Robert Monroe stuff. I found some of those up on YouTube again. But you helped me with my sleep paralysis as well.
Well, and I helped
Understanding
a
it.
friend who stopped dreaming in 1987. Her last dream was in 1987. She had a pretty active dream life, and so she's dreaming again now. So
That's awesome. Yeah, and
I
you've
want
learned
some Abbie magic.
Yeah, she's got it, man. Abbie is very talented for sure. Like a lot of the things, and that's what's cool too is I get to learn, right? Like talking about she's teaching, while she's learning all this stuff. There's some pretty interesting things about dreams and dream interpretations. We even have a little server of the Dream Coven group of people who are, actively experimenting with the dreams. And I don't know, maybe you want to share a couple things that you've discovered, Abbie, with us, just as far as dreaming. What's up, Cheney? How's it going? Good to hear from you in the chat.
I don't know. I don't know what's good to share or not. I'm sorry, I'm kind of on the spot.
No, that's okay. I mean, no, I don't mean to put you on the spot. I just like there's a lot. I mean, yeah, she put a whole presentation together for us, but there's definitely a couple of things that poke out. Just as far as like interpreting dreams, like how people maybe have the wrong idea of interpretation and like, oh, I dreamed of a blue crow. Does that mean that
so
I'm
the first
gonna
thing
get hit
everybody
by a
does, they
skateboard
go
today?
straight to a
Right.
dream dictionary, and a dream dictionary online or whatever, it's all bullshit. Sorry, but it is, because most of these things are subjective. It's what it means to you, or maybe your subconscious has a really funny way of wordplay. So it might use a person's name, and the person's name is to point you in the right direction. Like I had a friend who had a dream and she kept saying Leo DiCaprio, and she was sitting on C-shaped chairs. So like they were sitting facing each other on chairs that looked like this, right? And she kept saying Leo DiCaprio was across from me. And I was like, where is Leo in your chart and Capricorn? Because Leo DiCaprio, you're not even saying Leonardo DiCaprio, you're saying Leo. She's like, oh my gosh, that's my north and south node. And the north and south node in astrology are shaped, like horseshoes. So it was really bizarre, But yeah, we dream astrology as well. But we're just doing fun things. We're trying to meet up in the dream space. Hasn't quite happened yet, but a lot of us are going to the same areas, so that's pretty fun.
Yeah, and there's so much that corresponds too. It's crazy, but yeah, we have been trying
The
to meet up.
synchros.
Yeah, we have been trying to meet up in the dream space, but like collective synchronicities and stuff are definitely happening within the group, and people are connecting and stuff. And I think you do such a great job of helping people interpret their dreams. That's something that was really, really helpful for me, because I had a pretty weird dream one night, and you explained it to me, and that helped set me up for the next night. It was like I dreamt that I was going into all this like murky like swamp water, and then picking out body parts. And you're like, oh, well, you're just recapitulating that. You're just like integrating those parts of yourself. Those are just old parts of yourself that you've forgotten about. And I was like, oh, damn, girl,
They're deep in the murky water. Yeah,
that's right. It's
a lot
like
of
hidden.
it. And a lot of so my daughter was just telling me that she's had progressive dreams where they start out like they go on the next day, so this is happening now this is happening. It's the story goes on. I was like, that's reintegration. You're starting here as a status update. As it keeps going, it's letting you know where you are on that reintegrating that soul fragment. So it's pretty.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
I feel like I used to have much more vivid, like astral projection and lucid dreams when I was in a really tumultuous time of my life, like before my husband passed away, before all of that, like, and I remember them still, and I was like out there, and it was just occurred much more then than now. So I'm wondering if you have any thoughts on that, like why?
Yeah, that's again, that's what they call recapitulation. So your dream body, it's an actual body, it's your energetic body. And you're pretty healthy, I'm sure, spiritually and everything, but repressed emotion in your body will keep you from dreaming. And it'll keep your dreams from being, as online as they used to be. So, and also if you can remember some of your last vivid dreams, you can actually re-enter them and kind of figure out maybe what was going on at the time that you need to heal. So you can use it as a portal to go into your subconscious. It's pretty cool.
I think I do so much, like I haven't put any effort into, or not effort, but I haven't decided to play those games, the dream games. And so I think like when I intentionally want to, I think they'll definitely come back online too. I'm just like, I just sleep.
Yeah.
And
being a nurse, I'm like, is this Ambien or Lunesta? Like, which one do I take to get? Is it the red one or the blue one?
5-HTP. I like 5-HTP. I think that's one of the best things to take for vivid dreams.
Okay.
Nice.
You get that at like GNC or just Amazon or wherever?
Yeah, wherever. It's just it's an amino acid, so and it boosts the serotonin levels in your brain, but it does help you sleep. But but it's like L-tryptophan. It's 5-HTP. Okay. It's my favorite, and if I take 200 milligrams, and I'm gonna have some really good dreams that night. And actually, I had a really cool lucid dream the other night where I turned into a crow. I actually had a whole murder of crows that were like part of my family, so it was awesome.
5-HTP is really great after certain types of psychedelic medicine as well the next day. Could bring you back up if you haven't integrated properly and taken care of yourself. Some people don't take care of themselves during that.
And does it help you fall asleep, or does it just make okay?
And I recommend it over, because some people take melatonin, which it's melatonin, but that's a hormone. 5-HTP isn't a hormone, but it increases serotonin levels in your brain. So it's the happy hormone.
Yeah.
But it does it's not an actual hormone. So I recommend that over messing with taking actual hormones. But
yeah, being a nurse, I try to do as little pharmaceuticals as possible. So
I don't trust that stuff either.
Exactly.
Only for recreation. Come on.
Exactly.
Well, I try to make sure it doesn't have all the like microtoxins and stuff in it.
I mean, every once in a while, I want to feel like Elvis Presley. Take some uppers, some downers, just speedball it through the day.
Fry a peanut butter and jelly sandwich,
with bacon.
Oh man, you guys are making me hungry. I ate a lot of rice and chicken.
That's what we had tonight as well.
So somebody asked a question. Now, I don't want to get too off topic, but it is a live stream, so I'm happy to and I think this is probably more of a question for Abbie. Don't know if y'all have answered this, which we know we haven't. We just kind of went into a foray, but are the dream world and the astral realm different locales?
The dream world is, it's the Akashic, really. It's the film archive. It's where every past, present, and future of every person on the planet is stored. It's a real place. And so it technically is the astral.
Yeah, the way that they explained it, which helped me a ton in RT, was that the dream world is just is everything but the material, right? Like, so that's everything. It's the whole mind.
And it's actually the real world. That's where everything really exists. It's there.
Yeah, now we can get into mentalism, James, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
The real world is the dream world.
That's right. The real world is the dream world. The real world is the mental world where everything originates from. Everything starts out in the mental world, and then this is this like projection. Physical, goofiness is the like shadows on the wall, right? It's the reflection. Yeah, it's like it's the shadow in the cave. Go ahead.
It's the thing. Your thoughts aren't even happening in your brain, so you're just a receiver. You're in the vessel.
Yeah, man.
You have a little remote control.
Yeah.
There's a mind. scent transmitting.
Yeah, exactly. One of the things Eileen Day McCusick said, that's another book that just kind of tied the room together for me. Electric Body, Electric Health. I highly recommend it. She says the mind is not in the body's in the mind. And that's a great way to think about it too, right? Like we think of our mind as this thing, this little space right here, you know what I mean? But the mind is like all of this like whole toroidal sort of energetic field that we're surrounded by. That's why you can feel somebody glazing a stare into the back of your head or sneaking up on you, you know what I mean? Like you can be aware and feel that, like, because the mind is like it's more than just our brain, that's for sure. And everything originates in the mind, which just seems so obvious, right? It's like I don't build a sandcastle and then have an idea to build a sandcastle, right? It seems so obvious. But when you think about it, and when you also think about the amount of leverage that the mentalism, that's a your mind determines the landscape. The map is not the territory. The menu is not the meal. But you're not going to see something in the territory that's not on your map. You know, like you're not going to be able to even acknowledge that it exists because you don't have the equipment set to be able to witness that. And that's why like sleight of hand and magic and all these like things, you know, you don't even see the guy turn the card over unless you have that on your map and you've seen that trick and you know how a magic trick works. Then you can spot it and see how it happens. And that's why I say a lot. The harder it looks, or the easier it looks, the harder it is. The easier it looks, the longer it's taken that person to be able to do that. Like Dave Chappelle started doing comedy when he was like 13 or something like that, 12. He looks so effortless and so easy at it. I remember James and I had this, we both didn't realize that comics wrote routines. Like neither one of us did. And he went and saw George Carlin. What was it? You saw him the first night, he killed.
And I saw him play the second night verbatim. And I was literally like, I ain't fucking doing that. I was like, that's bullshit. I don't have to just repeat myself my whole fucking life.
Right? Exactly. I didn't even realizing. I just thought like the comedians would just go up there and just launch it.
Yeah, but that's a good comedian is that they take scripted material and really make it seem like it's coming off the cuff and bring you into their feeling and their awareness and their perception.
It feels like a discovery, right? Like he was that good at it that every time he was just repeating himself, but it felt like to everyone in the room that they were figuring this all out together, right? Like all having this aha moment, and it looked really easy. And he looked like he was just an old man ranting on stage, but it was a very calculated thing. And there are much looser comics too, by the way, who write on stage and who do a lot of crowd work and stuff like that. So, but I mean, it kind of messed with the mystique to me when I realized that they wrote material too. I was also kind of let down, you know, because it's like, oh man. But it also made me realize, hey, I can do this. I can if other people are writing material, I don't have to be as funny as Carlos Valencia all the time. I can, you know, write down material and just explore my butthole on paper and you know, and just journal about my taints. Just journaling about my private parts for hours and hours and hours. That's what I've been doing for the past year, and so far I've got about 20 minutes of material.
5 of it's funny. Sorry.
Right, exactly. So I've got 3 minutes of material. But no, that's awesome. Yeah.
Butthole is your purpose.
Dude, I mean, I'm just pointing out the glitch in the Matrix. There's something that's got to be there for a reason.
I mean, it's a portal. It's a portal into, you know.
Portal out.
Yeah.
Say portal.
Well, I mean, why are the aliens so fascinated with it? Maybe it's what's inside that counts after all, you know? Yeah, the mysteries of the universe have to exist somewhere, right? Like they gotta be somewhere, man.
Uranus.
Yeah.
Right. Oh,
I've already looked.
Yep.
How'd we get to butthole jokes?
Real
Damn
quick. That happened real quick.
Yeah, that happened fast. We're not even at the top of the hour yet. Descending into that. I don't know.
You guys don't want to get me going.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, but yeah, like that. It's been amazing, Abbie, watching you develop too, because you had this ability, this innate thing. You knew you were a dreamer for a long time, and it's so easy for us to discount the things that come easy to us as not important to other people, and that was one thing too that always stuck with me, is that yeah, and the chat is right here. You got to squeeze that energy up into the from the perineum. I don't know how to pronounce it, but up into the pineal. That's right, the root all the way.
That's your life review.
That's right. It goes all the way up. 33 spine.
It's like the rings on a tree.
Yes. But we do undervalue the things that we're good at. It's like the thing that I see it all the time, and it's hard to see. It's hard to see yourself, right? Like it's hard to be seen. It's even harder to see yourself. And so like having that encouragement and being able to take that and continue to explore it. I mean, you were already exploring it yourself. So all that time was just spent learning about the practice. And then whenever, you have the opportunity and other people start asking you questions, you're like, oh shit, you guys haven't been, I have all this information that I can now share. And I really appreciate what you've done, because you've helped a lot of people, and really cool people.
Well, you've helped me too, because you pointed out, because I'm always like, I'm not an expert. And you go, well, expert comes from experience, right? It's like, oh shit. Yep. You got me there. So
yeah, because it's real easy to say, well, so-and-so already wrote a book about this, or so-and-so already did this, or Tony Robbins is a coach. What do I need a coach for? He's the best coach or whatever. But it's like, no, there's something very unique and very special about each and every one of our buttholes. I mean, we're all so different.
Are we going to rename the title of this episode or what?
I guess I can, but like we have fingerprints, right? Like I have one weird bald patch on my shoulder. Everywhere else is full of hair. Like there's more hair on my body than there is on my bathroom floor, which is bizarre, right? Like God definitely has a sense of humor, or whatever it is that's happening, or the devil has a really good sense of humor, or something's going on. But yeah, I just want to like point out the uniqueness, right? Like you have your own perspective, your own perspective, your own area that you can kind of see, your own landscape. And so that makes you, and then by experience makes you an expert. So if you do something for 5 or 10 years, you have mastered it. Like once you get to 10 years, right? What is it? 40,000 hours, or I don't know how many thousands of hours it is. It's a lot, but 10 years, that's about how long it takes to master something. So you will also have a different sort of view. And another thing too, that always gets thrown under the rug, and this is something I love talking to clients with, or about and bringing up, is because I don't know a lot of specialists. I know a lot of generalists than I know specialists. And there's nothing wrong with being a specialist, but there's nothing wrong with being a generalist either, because they don't even tell you the full saying of jack of all trades, master of none, but oft times better than master of one, okay? And that's because, again, we have our own perspective. So I'll repeat that because it's really profound. Jack of all trades, master of none, but oft times better than master of one. So to unpack that, it means, look, if you can do a bunch of different things, you can see things with multiple perspectives. So you bring those perspectives into a new field of study, or something you're exploring, a new project, and you might be able to see angles that someone who's been doing that can't see any longer because they're such a myopic view, right? Like me as a generalist, if I go onto a set, I might notice something about where things are located over here based on just my experience being on sets. That's very general, but the lighting director might not even realize that he's stepping on the toes of the grips or something, right? Like to be able to just see, the big picture, and to have the context and the perspective that sometimes you could just walk in and do something very well, as good at, maybe as good as a master, maybe, right? Or at least very proficiently well. And then you didn't necessarily, have to be in that confined specialist role. Again, nothing wrong with being a specialist either, but understanding that both of those positions come with certain advantages and disadvantages. So I love saying that because I feel myself as a generalist, and for so long I did everything myself. And now just getting to the point where, I feel like the reason why I was forced or coaxed or dragged along by the universe to do so much by myself is because I'm so eager to just join a group and give my power away. So I had to learn how to actually hold on to that and to, not be just frivolous about things, and to focus on my own development and put myself first and things like that, in order to actually become independent so that I could become interdependent, because you can't skip that step. It's just not possible. And I hate it because I spent years and years and years trying to skip that step, and it just never worked, right? So we have to find that. We have to find that independence. We have to find that security, that sense of self-worth on our own before we come and bring it into the group or whatever, really, to have a truly stable and healthy group, right? You can still be a part of a group and not be fully formed, actualized or whatever. But the point being is it's really easy to lose those boundaries, and it's also really easy to just volunteer stuff or lose your lose your sway, your influence, your idea just at someone else's whim, because you want to be a part of a group, right? You want this interdependence. But we have to learn some of the things, and I had to learn a lot of things on my own. Doesn't mean I have to do those things all the time, but I had to learn how to do them. And I guess at this point I should just be grateful that I learned more skills, right?
It's important too, when it comes to the terms of what we learned in RT with polarity, and I'm bringing this up because I'm in this Facebook group, Austin Conscious People, and somebody brought up the idea of Kali and toxic femininity, the women that are embracing Kali. And I was like, it's all two sides. It's the same. It's all the same. So but the thing is, that people so much want to associate with this thing. Now there's this new dark empath. You want to associate with this group instead of. So I love the idea. I'm another person who's I've dabbled in so many different things, and it, when you get back to what do you really think? Not what people say. We could rewrite Kali's story, and it is what it says it is because we've been repeating it over and over and over and over again, and that's what's put in our mind. But that could be not even her true story. Who's thought to go look or ask her or ask that essence that is in the dream world that's all there of all creation? And guess what? We in our minds can change it. So it's all, I don't know. There's the idea of I understand an essence of needing to resonate with something, but I think that it's important.
Overly identifying is toxic in itself.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, I think the only thing that really continues those ideas and those archetypes is our attention. It just over time. But I think the more attention we give it, right, the more it gets, right, becomes this thing that doesn't really go away, but it's because we're constantly just verifying it's, and validating it over and over and over again. Whereas if we play a different game, it just falls away. It becomes the example I think he uses in one of the books is he uses vinyl records as an example. He's well, there's no energetic polarization to a vinyl record, but now there is a back end, but a hammer or an iron that you used to put on the stove. How much energy does that have, right? In the collective conscious, it's just an old tool. It's not relevant anymore. But if we shifted our focus, to whatever that is now, electric car, right? It's got a bunch of energy around that, right? It's this idea that's validated and has collective energy around it. But But yeah, I think that's well said, Tiff. We are creating our experience and creating our reality back to that idea of this map, right? Like if I don't know that it's there, I don't see it. I can't picture it in this space. But if I know that it's there, then I look for it and I see it everywhere I look, right? Like when you start to buy a new car, you know, and it's just, you see it everywhere. Honda Accords are now everywhere, or whatever it is. It's your reticular activation system is what it's called, RAS. And what it does is it teaches you. It's the inner observer that he talks about, because it's how you train your mind what to pay attention to. And so that is a very scientific and real thing. And the more that we pay attention, the more that we're actually using confirmation bias to our advantage. So I think moving with purpose in that regard, like it can be something that can be so empowering and motivating all the time, because you always have something fueling you and pushing you forward. Isaac, you've always known.
Focus.
Go ahead, James.
I was just, you get what you focus on. It's just focus on what you want to get. You know, like focus is where the magic happens, and that's where you're putting your energy and your sensory inputs into. And the more that you focus on any particular thing, good or bad, you're going to create more of that, emotionally and physically and spiritually. So, you know, your focus is everything. And I think a lot of people suffer from, like, you hear a lot of this fall back on anxiety these days. What they're really saying is I'm not going to put the effort in to learn how to control my thoughts. And I'm going to let my mind control the output of my existence. And really, it comes down to learning how to focus, learning how to concentrate, learning how to get control of your mental output. And I was a victim of that. I totally believed at one stage in my life that you made me angry and these things happen, and this is the response that requires for whatever thing that I'm responding to. Ultimately, we create all of that. I mean, it's a decision to respond, and it's taking responsibility of controlling your thoughts. We have control over one thing in this universe, three things in this universe: our thoughts, our feelings, decision to feel, and our decision to act.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Well,
I had to.
Well, some people don't have control of their buttholes.
Yeah.
Well, we only have control over those three things. And the more that you try to control other aspects of anything other than those three things, the more the universe will push back at you. But we have control over our output and what we want to focus on and what we want to create. And, and the more that, you reel that in and get on purpose, the more that you find that focus brings exactly what you're looking for.
And just kind of to continue that point about, other people may be angry. Something I've really enjoyed from the course is pendulums, like the energy of pendulums. So, yeah, I thought that was just a really good lesson about kind of see that energy bounce back and forth, whether it's in relationships between, a lover or whatever, or if it's like between a boss and, employee, like you can just kind of see that energy and just step out of the way, like just let the energy die. That's always, that's been, mind blowing for me, just being like, wow, I don't have to participate in this.
Mind blowing for me too, dude. Absolute game changer, man. That idea is unreal. Go ahead, Abbie.
Yeah. It's weird to find yourself at that neutral point now, where normally things would polarize you and you're going to push that pendulum back the other way. And instead you're just like, oh, okay, I see you. And you just kind of let it go. And then, it's weird to almost not react.
Yeah.
But then
it's helped my nursing career. Yeah. It's helped my nursing career, not like giving such a fuck. If a patient wants to leave, it's like, all right, here's your leaving against medical advice form. Here you go.
Yeah. That's awesome, right? What? Yeah.
If you don't want help, I'm not going to like beg you to stay here and help. Like, here's your options. Here's your form. Like,
yeah,
it's
like not going to ruin my day anymore.
Yeah. It's like I double dog dare you to say this, sign this form. I'm tired of taking care of you, asshole. Like, leave.
For me too, like it was disengaging from so many of the conspiracy du jour, oh my God, they're doing this now, or like whatever, which when are they ever not doing?
What are they not?
We're
Yeah.
never short.
Yeah.
We're never short of crisis. So
Yeah.
whenever I hear about
The war
the
in
latest
Eurasia.
thing, the war in Eurasia, which has always been with East Asia.
Monkeypox or
Yeah,
whatever.
exactly.
Yeah.
When I see these monkeypox memes,
Donkey cocks. I
or
mean,
what-
donkey.
hey, when I see all these things, I'm just like, okay, well, here's the next thing, and instead of like going down a Wikipedia, not that Wikipedia is trustworthy, but going down like a research rabbit hole, like, oh my God, how did this happen? Oh my God, it's just scabies or like whatever it is, like I'll just wait for somebody else to, go down and explore that. I'm just going to literally live in my own world. Like I've made the choice now that I'm like, all right, cool, whatever. I'm doing what I'm doing. If they come and take me out of my house and throw me in a camp, okay. But other than that, like, fuck, I'm just going to do what I'm going to do, right? Like nothing else, I'm just going to navigate the best that I can, and the things that happen, what were we going to do about that, right? Like we can shift our attention and create our own systems, which I am a huge advocate and encourager of, or we can, fight against the supposed system and accidentally endorse it. By
Giving it energy.
by propping it up, right? And so, and first and foremost, the first and most important thing is that ability to emotionally just disengage that inner observer, saying, all right, well, I'm not going to pay attention, to the things that what is helpful for me. Like, I know what my purpose is. I know what I'm here to do. So I'll focus on that. I have a hard time with what James was talking about, focusing on what you don't want. It happens to me still all the time. And I'll just realize it. I'm like, oh my God, I'm thinking about all the things. What did you say? Like worrying is praying for
what you don't want.
Yeah. And I
It's
do
like
that.
if you're gonna take that energy, it's like you're outputting this psychic energy, right? And so if you're taking your imagination and you're wasting on a fucking thing called worry, it's like you're literally creating the emotional energy that it takes to create the thing that you don't want or you're worried about. And it's like if you're going to take that energy, you can take steps that could, counter react to the things that you have concerns about, or you could just be creating more things. It's like the creative energy spent on worry. It astounds me how much people are in that habit. And
So many people.
Like,
Did you just wish I wish my cat
imagination? Just use your. I'm broadcasting from the zoo.
And that's like the 4 agreements. I think one of them is, to embrace the angel of death, which sounds so morbid, but really when you realize you're here and you will die, like it helps you to really drop all that importance too, I think. And you stop worrying because it's like, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? Oh, I'm going to die. Spoiler alert, it's going to happen.
It's good.
You'd be surprised how many people don't realize that in the hospital.
I know.
Like so many people dying on ventilators and, feeding tubes. It's just crazy how people are just so resistant to death, and it's all about quantity over quality at this point.
Yeah. And that's
what's part of,
I think when you would embrace it as well, it gives you better quality of life because you're like, shoot, I'm not going to waste my time worrying about this bullshit. Yeah. I'm going to freaking go live and do what I want to do.
Yeah, seeing enough 88,
you're like, okay, yeah.
Yeah, seeing enough 88-year-olds in the hospital, it's like if I turn 88, I'm taking up heroin like right then. Like I'm just done with this place. Like,
I feel that.
88. Like,
if I need somebody to change my diaper, I don't want to be alive anymore. Sorry.
Exactly.
You just get one of those rascal scooters and then find a cliff edge and just really slowly.
My next vessel is going to be such a badass vessel. It's like I'm just going to upgrade from the SUV to the full-sized Suburban.
Well, that's like my favorite transurfing quote. Sorry, is your life after 20 is about your personal degradation. So you have to choose. Are you going to allow that to be what exists for you mentally, physically, spiritually, or are you going to grow? Because that's your only other option is to evolve.
Hey, I might also add that when you are worrying and you're putting yourself, you are instigating your parasympathetic nervous system, your fight or flight, and all the blood is not in your brain anymore, and it's now in your limbs. It's not in your organs. And so the longer you live with the blood in your limbs through worry and fear, the more you are literally causing cell apoptosis, and your cells begin to kill themselves because you are not giving them the oxygen they need. So, the mental capacity on controlling your thoughts is literally is a component of modern disease.
And
people
reverse,
are literally killing themselves.
Like, we can definitely re-engineer this by working in this, and we can like stop that process and go reverse that process, and just by living in joy and by focusing on the desires and creating the world where that's not even a thing. When we're 88 having diapers, when we're 88 we wouldn't be 88, it won't even be a thing. We'll just be
25 forever.
Well, yeah, it's back to the mental part, right? And also just that tension, that constriction, right? Like, imagine what your poor little butthole is having to deal all the time, walking around all tightened up like a freaking roll of dimes, like all the time. And so you're like squeezing out cortisol, with the clamp down, and it's not healthy. We need to be able to focus again on what we want. And again, like, this is something that I trip up on too, because like there's part of it is critical thinking too, because you want to think ahead, like what might be the obstacles, what else might I have to overcome or think about, or what tweaks might need to be made to my plan in order to make this thing happen, right? Like, as like transurfing, we know like it's what's most important is really being pliable and flexible on the path, like, and open to different resources and tools, and not being stuck in your own sort of method or way. But, understanding that things are going to shift and come up, and it's always going to be different. It's never going to work out the way that you sort of planned. So being able to think about that kind of stuff and process it with mental tools and mental models, but without that, all the emotional, tension and all the stress and anxiety over the outcome occurring, like being able to like put that together is pretty sweet. Brooklyn here says, they don't worry about it. They just do their own thing and keep their living their happy life, and that's awesome. I 100% love that, because it's really about, what is it for you that, you're supposed to bring or do, and that's why I find myself doing the things that I do, is because I feel like there's a fulfillment there. There's a reason, right? Like I might make a goal, and that's cool, but it's not the same thing as like sort of being on purpose. And I kind of want to talk about that sensation maybe, or the idea of flow, or a purposeful kind of creative, I'm saying a lot, but like a creative sort of pocket, just being in this ability to create and feeling like you're on purpose, and like you have a burning desire. What he says in Outwitting the Devil is definiteness of purpose. That's the thing, the main thing that beats the devil. And so having that definiteness of purpose is what makes...
Napoleon Hill. That's Napoleon Hill, right?
That's correct. Yep, that's the big thing in Outwitting the Devil.
Yeah, that's
It's funny because you can apply it not just to regular creative endeavors. Oh, I'm sorry.
I think there might be a lag.
Yeah, no worries. You can go.
Okay. Well, I was just going to say, because like bodybuilding, it's just something that kind of came up. It's something I wanted to do. I don't want to degenerate. I want to grow. I want, to evolve. So I just started acting as if, and I started watching bodybuilders and following bodybuilders on Instagram. And then I bought myself a pair of high heel platform shoes, so I could practice posing. And then I got a posing coach. And then all of a sudden, it's fallen. I've got 6-pack abs right now. So yeah, I'm well on my way, but it's it's an evolution of thought. It for sure is. It's just, I know the more that I seek it, the more it's going to happen. And I'm creating it even just on accident, but it is.
That's the thing. You got the momentum. You have the momentum going right now with that particular thing. And that's what what people are missing when they're like, oh, don't know what my purpose is, or I'm looking for a purpose, or I'm looking for meaning, is they actually don't have the momentum from having the thought process that brings them the interest and the focus and brings them to them now, right? And so it's like, and for me, as I was doing a lot before I made my movie, I played a lot of video games and just did a lot of consumer shit, right? And then I started making this movie, and the movie had purpose behind it. It was to help people, educate people about this one subject. And the more purpose I had, and didn't have anything to do with me and my comfort, it had to do with creating this thing. And the more that I was on purpose making this movie, the more the movie started making itself, because every day was an unfoldment of this idea that we had this goal. And the more that we worked towards this goal, the more reality unfolded before us to create that goal. And I got interviews from the top cited scientists in medicine. I found myself in all kinds of places. I stormed government buildings looking for answers with film crews. I did whatever. I asked whoever and did whatever, and everybody was like, "Sure, you're making a movie about that? Let me help you." And we talked our way into a brand new emergency ward at a hospital. We talked about the fire trucks, or the fire team, and the ambulances to give us their ambulances for a film shoot. So we did this, and we were just shooting off the hip all the time. But the more we came up with more ideas, the more things would happen. And that didn't happen playing video games in my bed, in my living room, making my purpose to find 10,000 points or this golden key or whatever. And that's where all of my creative energy was going into, was these consumer type things. And I wasn't inspired in those situations. Now you move forward into a point where you feel inspired to do things, and you're making decisions to create something bigger than yourself. And you do that with other people who are inspired to do the same, and big things happen. I wasn't a filmmaker. I didn't even know how to edit film. But when I pulled the software out of the box, I taught myself how to edit these, because it was something that was deep within me. And I had found purpose. And in that movie led to my gongs. So it's like the whole thing becomes a cascading avalanche of momentum the more that you find yourself doing what your heart desires.
Just
why you're here.
Yeah.
I'm sure fucking Game of Thrones is fucking awesome. Never seen one episode. I don't have that much goddamn time at this stage of my life.
It's up and down, honestly.
I
hear the ending sucks.
And that's the thing. It's like, someone could tell you this, like, you just got to watch this series. The first 6 episodes are all exposition or start slow, but it'll get better. So your fucking life, if you just stop doing this shit, like stop watching other people's creations, and like get a little curiosity and a little bit of interest into anything, and find out what you're into. It's like it takes a lot of effort to get away from the miasma and the clutches of culture. And I wanted to be a filmmaker since I was a little kid, but I lost that in the status quo, and found it again in finding my purpose and searching what I wanted to do with my life. And that's just like the tip of the iceberg. I'm writing movies now, but the idea was to help others, and that led me to the gongs. And once I started getting a taste of healing people or leading them to their healing, I was like, I'm never gonna not do whatever my heart desires again, because everything I do pays off.
Well, finding your purpose facilitates healing. So,
and that's the thing. And creating and finding your purpose, you're creating whatever it is you're supposed to create. That begins to heal you, because creation into itself is a very healing thing.
And finding your true self, for sure.
Yeah, and once you get a little taste of that soul. Like there isn't anything, like I was kind of joking. It's like a Saturday night, doing nothing on a Saturday night, but following my dreams alone with nobody getting in the way of my thought process. Anyways, that's my today's rant.
I love it. I see so much good stuff in there. So much good stuff. And like Abbie is talking about, how things started happening with her, there's so much leverage here because you're talking about momentum. There's also environment. And that's another thing that Napoleon Hill talks a lot about. It's like, as soon as you start to learn something, you put yourself in that environment. Now you're in that environment, you start picking up on stuff that nobody's even teaching you, but you're like, oh, that's what they call that. It's like, and so you start, picking up on those things and you start to put those habits in your own body. Then you start to see what other people are doing and you model them without even trying to model them. And so all that leverage you have like accumulating, that's also momentum pushing you. And then you can cue off of other people's successes as well and see what they have done. And it's like, oh shit, well, if they can do it, so can I, right? And so so now you have this metric and you're like, oh, well, now I actually can, push forward and do the same thing that they did, right?
And the thing is it doesn't take the best tools. Like we stop ourselves from chasing, our passion or whatever, because we're like, oh, well, like I don't have the best gym. I'm in a small town, what? You don't need it. Just do it and just start becoming that. And then as you become it, you're going to be surprised because things are going to start transforming.
Or revealing themselves to you that weren't there, then perhaps you've transformed.
It's like, ooh, wow. Yeah. Well, because like the posing coach, I live in a tiny town in Northeast Oklahoma, and I found a local bikini pro. So I'm like, you can teach me posing. So how amazing is that?
Yeah. And my whole season of my first season of my podcast, Owen like gave me a clip-on mic that goes in my phone, and that's like literally what I've recorded my whole first season on. And it's like, here, you have no excuse. Here's your little clip-on microphone. Now go do it.
That's
yeah.
awesome.
It gets
Don't
easier.
let the tools hold you back.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
do
You
it.
can just start somewhere, one foot in front of the other.
Exactly, because content over quality, like your friend said, oh, he didn't prefer your first season. Well, it might be his bad taste, but you can still take that constructive criticism and then improve, right? And then you can also take the production and be like, hey, well, let's improve the production. We'll use real microphones. We'll record with an H4. We'll put the mastering.
He just knows me from work too, and it's like, in person, it's like you're a lot funnier. That first season was kind of.
Well, that's kind of how
serious.
stand-up is, dude. You know what I mean? Like, people are like, you're so funny, and then you get on stage. Why aren't you yourself up there? Because you're like, because it takes like years to really, start to be yourself on stage. So, it's kind of the same thing. It's like it's real easy for somebody, and it's a lot easier too. I'll say, when we're having a conversation ourselves than just like turning on a microphone and just like talking into it, which I've done a lot myself. On Patreon and stuff. Thank you everybody who's ever supported me on Patreon, and I'm sorry, you know what I mean? I owe you a huge debt of gratitude as well as service.
Congratulations and my condolences.
Exactly, because it's much harder to just talk and yammer, by yourself, but with another person, you have actually something to build off of, and so, but there's only one way to get good at something, that is to do it. There's no substitute for experience ever, not ever. And so you can sit around and think about how great your thing's going to be when you finally do it, but it's not going to be that great, to be honest with you.
The cost of greatness is literally looking like a fool. Get on board. Look like a jackass. Fumble around. Flop around. Look, hey, this must be his first. Yeah, it is my fucking first time, and I'm gonna get on the surfboard. And I'm gonna do it. Right. And it always comes down to doing it. When I started writing my screenplay right before I met Owen, I did it because I didn't have any money, and a pencil's free. And that was my tool. That's all I needed. Didn't even need a computer. I could write down all the things I needed to do that. And the more that I made that a reality, other things started popping up, and other opportunities presented themselves to do what I needed to do. So it's. You could find excuses or you could find solutions. And ultimately, if you're bored, that's a friggin' excuse.
Mm-hmm.
You should be bored. You should be finding something.
Well, if you have that feeling, you should realize like, oh, I need to get off my ass and do something. If I'm bored, no reason to be bored.
That's one of the sneakiest tricks in the artist's way of all, is that she tells you one of the weeks, I can't remember which one, but she's like, you don't read anything or consume anything. And that whole week you're like, I'm just gonna be bored this whole time. And so you become so bored that you actually start creating something. And so
Uh-huh.
it's the best trick ever, because like after day 2 or 3, you're like, man, I got to do something. You start singing songs about cooking hot dogs or whatever, and you can't help yourself. But then once you get to like day 5 or 6 of that, or after the week even, I would say, like it totally shifted the way that I consume content. Like I do not unintentionally just put stuff on in the background. Like I'd be in the car with somebody and they'd have like something on in the background, just like blah, 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 or NPR, like, you know, vaccines,
Oh my God.
racism. You know how they do on NPR.
Yes.
And so, like, I'd be driving around and hearing that just droning on in the background. And it's like, dude, that's going right into your shit. Like, that is going into you. And
That's their spells.
Yeah. There you go.
Their
Yeah.
spells. They literally wrote their affirmations down on a piece of paper and had someone cast them across an
Yeah.
energetic wavelength.
Yeah.
That's I do not watch the news. I do
No.
not listen to the radio. I am all set with any of that madness.
Everything with
ASMR spells.
I found out this really cool concept because for me, I really resisted focus, and I resisted the idea of prioritizing, because I associated my association with like wealth and abundance was different. And so I almost was like, had the idea of like struggle being associated with freedom. And then like I had this like rewritten for me when somebody was like, you have an inner leader, right? Which is like that idea person. It's like the essence of who you are. You're like expressive. Those ideas, the big ideas to write the screenplay and to do the thing and whatever. And then you have the inner manager, who's the one who's like, okay, so in order to do this, we have to, get our pencil, and we have to do this and this and this and that. And this is the game we play in order to do that. And then the producer has it easy. They just do the thing. They're just like, oh, manager, you've done all the stuff, the tasks, and I just have to do it. So like to get acquainted with attuning or embodying like those different essences. And because if I always stay in that leader thing, I'm not getting shit done. But I'm inspired, got all these ideas, but I'm not doing any of them. I'm creating, but it's not coming into like a grounded formation, because like I wouldn't allow myself to look at the fact that I was resisting productivity and I was resisting that change for whatever reason. So I had to play a game to figure out like where that's coming from, to let that go. So then I can, now I can step into this role with this confidence behind it, because I've healed whatever that brain pattern was programmed that I gave myself, and I kept telling myself and like letting that go. But it's important to like, because there's some people that are just like, oh yeah, I'm full of ideas, but like nothing's happening,
Yeah, there's resistance. Like, man, it's interesting thinking about resistance, because like you read a book like The War of Art. That's such a good book, and he talks about like you have to chase your resistance, because like you need to figure out whether your heart is comfortable or if it's discomfort with whatever it is that you want. But but the other part of that picture is, once you do identify the thing that you want, like now you have to put in all that time, that experience. You have to gain those hours and that traction and begin to develop your skill at it. And there's always going to be, that resistance. I think that's why he pushes you that way. So there's this, paradoxically, there's this like, joy of your heart that sort of like opens and starts singing, when you identify that thing. And then there's that part of you that like cringes and is like, oh shit, I don't want to have to do all this work. Cause like, one thing that I noticed is, especially when I started comedy, but I noticed this too in rafting, is like, I always wanted to be better than I was. And so back to that whole environment thing, you've got these younger people, let's say just rafting for an example, and they're learning these terms and they're trying to talk cool and they're trying to sound like they know what they're talking about, with the other raft guides or whatever. And they're in the environment and they are picking up on these things, and they do want to be better. They want to be knowledgeable. They want to know everything about the river. But they don't yet. But they're just to know enough to be dangerous, at that point. But what's going to get them over that edge and over that cliff is to go toward the things that they're the most resistant to and face those things and confront them head on, which eventually they will, right? They're going to get stuck on a rock. They're going to flip their boat over. You know, they're going to pin their raft and have to tie a Z-drag and pull the thing off the rock. It's just eventually going to happen. And then they'll have that experience. But it's funny because, you know, especially in our society, we're so magic pill thinking, and like we just all the time just want to immediately be able to just like, you know, program something in like the Matrix, like, oh, I know Kung Fu. It's like, dude, it doesn't work like that. We actually do have to put the time in, but it's kind of an interesting paradox between those two things, because it is follow your bliss, but it's not follow your, like, you know, laziness or whatever, right? Like, so there's a little bit of some funk there to kind of wade through, you know?
And we can call it play. Like, it doesn't have to be work. We're playing the game. We're playing the
I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah.
I love the idea, like the rafting thing, because it brings you back to like that focus thing. What you focus on is what you get. So when you don't want to hit a rock and you're looking at the rock you don't want to hit, you're going to hit the rock.
Every
so
time.
Like, look where you want to go. Follow the channel where the water's flowing. Look further ahead to the end of where you want to go, and the raft is going to go there. That's where you're going to, but you always look at the rock. Of course you look at the rock. I don't want to hit the rock. I don't want to hit it. So you look at it.
Yeah. And then, it may as well be a magnetic rock that just sucks your boat straight to it. That's exactly right. That's exactly how it happens, you know? But it's funny. It's always cute when we're learning stuff. Go ahead, Isaac.
I was just gonna say, I'm gonna have to run on y'all. I appreciate it. I gotta get to the dream world. So I'll tell you all about it, Abbie.
We'll see you in the calls,
Great.
bro.
I look forward to it.
All right. Y'all have a great night.
All right. Thanks, Isaac. Thanks for hanging out, man. You're awesome. Yeah, everybody check out Scrubs in the Trenches. I'll put that in the show notes too.
Appreciate it. Y'all have a good night.
Follow Isaac on Facebook. Bye. Good night, Isaac. Yeah, and we'll get this thing, you know, winding down as well. See if there's any comments in here. Anybody want to share anything? Do you guys have anything pressing that's relevant to this topic?
Nope.
Sounds like a no. All right. That's good. No, that's good. No, like I love this topic. It's something that I haven't really talked about on this podcast, I guess, as much as I have on other people. So I wanted to talk about it. And of course, you know, promote our current offer, the Blueprint to Happiness with James and I. I'm really excited about that. I already have people signing up, so I'm pretty stoked. And we're taking calls all this week and into next week, but kicking off on June 1st. Kiage, I know I did not say that right intentionally, because if I do it intentionally, then you can't call me. You know, who's puppy? Oh, it's James. He's at the farm. The positive use of imagination. Yes, that's what we want to use it for, ideally, right? Is 1984 a cautionary tale or a programming tool? And I have a theory about this. That's a good question. I think it's both. You know, back to like resolving the paradox and stuff, but it's a cautionary tale, I do believe, as well as a programming tool in the fact that, like, I read that book in 7th grade, and I did not have the aptitude to understand what it was referring to, what the metaphor was. So when you read a book like that, they also made us read Self-Reliance in like 7th or 8th grade or something like that, right? Which by Ralph Waldo Emerson, which is one of the best books ever. Well, if you read that in 7th or 8th grade, I remembered one quote my whole life: "For nonconformity, the world whips you with its displeasure." And I learned that. And it always stuck with me. But really, both of those books are introduced to us before we can really do anything with them. You know, if you read that book at 30 years old, it's a completely different read than if you read that book when you're 8. You know what I mean? Like, how are you supposed to process transcendentalism, you know, at age 8, or like a scientific or sci-fi allegory about our social structure? Sorry, go ahead, Abbie.
I was just going to say that propaganda isn't a new thing. It's not something that started with the television set or the radio. It started in literature. It started a very long time ago. So yeah, I mean, almost it's anything that you consume, you should always have your active observer on. Like, not only is what are the themes of the story and stuff, because I was a reading teacher, but it's also, what else is this trying to tell me? And what is this trying to make me think about or maybe worry about, you know, because a lot of the times it's trying to implant thoughts. So
I love that.
Okay, cool. Honey asks, are there categories for what purposes might be? Healer, uplifter, coach, etc. I think that's up to each individual person. I really leave that up to. I think there are definitely probably some categories that could be made and some common.
I think it boils down to alignment, though. Really, and if you are feeling like you are fulfilled in doing, and it doesn't really matter what modality it is. It could be, it could be helping others. It could be building something. It could be creating a business or creating some kind of art. You can be on purpose in many different avenues of your life, but ultimately what matters is that you're in alignment with your actions regarding those activities. And if you're meeting tons of resistance, and not resistance because you don't know, but resistance because you probably shouldn't be doing a particular thing because you're not suited for it. But there's no real category for being on purpose. It's literally an alignment and a way of being that a constant exploration of the things that make your soul glow.
Make your soul glow.
it's an action. It's a verb.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I like the verb, the action thing. That's great. Yeah, and it's really a way to just kind of like, from my opinion, just, attach to ourselves, attach to everything that is that mental, like infinite idea. It's like our little tether, umbilical cord to the all kind of thing. It's like, all right, so this is the kind of like my focus, my thing that I can sort of see. And I think it goes beyond that too. Like I took an amazing, it wasn't a course. It was like a branding workshop kind of thing, like identifying your personal brand. And they wrote for us at the end 50 different essences. I can't recommend enough. It's the Sam Christensen process. If you're interested or curious, a lot of actors do it. People who have a personal brand or whatever, and they try to understand, exactly who they are at a deep level, right? Like, so they would, through this workshop was very intensive. It was a lot of work, but by the end of it, they gave us 50 different essence statements. And I would say the essence statement is different than a purpose statement. For me, I have like a purpose statement. I'm like, okay, I know what my purpose is to get out there and bring as many people joy. And I think there's layers to that, right? Like I'm a bridge builder and I'm a synthesizer of information. And so like those are things that I do that stack up on top of that, bringing people joy. But if I can infuse that joy into whatever it is that I'm doing, then I'm really, bringing my purpose to it. And then through the essence idea is really understanding ourselves from another person's perspective. So they might have, like someone wrote like a steady warm campfire about me, which is really sweet, right? Like I appreciate that. That's really nice. But like that's a great essence, and that's one essence. And so that steady warm campfire, if I was, let's say, auditioning for something, right? Like I could go in and I would think steady warm campfire, and then I would exude that essence, right, as that steady warm campfire. Whereas there were several other ones that they wrote that were all really cool and beautiful, like bouncy ball perched at the top of a long staircase, right? Like I'm just gonna hold on, we're gonna have some fun. It's gonna be a tickle party. Watch out, it's coming. But understanding that, right, and that's a completely different essence. So I could read the same lines in either of those essences and have a completely different expression or experience by doing it that way. So like the idea of purpose, understanding who we are at a deep, deep level, that's in here. And I think like that can come out in these essences, right? Like in these layers and levels and the complexity and the nuance of who we are. And this is where I really started to understand the difference between self-help and self-development. Self-help is healing, health, being whole, recapitulation, integration. And then self-development is understanding the humanity that we all are and have, like, and these weird nuances and, like back to the imperfections that we are, these perfect little imperfections. And I think those two things really, help each other. Like we develop and we heal, and then we develop and we heal, and we develop and we heal, and we uncover new layers about ourselves and understandings about ourselves, who we are as people, what our purpose is, and how we come across and how we can come across the range of who we are. So kind of looking at those two things, and where we're headed from here is, I've done tons and tons and tons of work on purpose and really understanding this and having other experts come in and say, you're right. And that's a fucking great feeling. I'll just say that. And then going from there, but building on top of that, because I'm standing on the shoulder of giants anyway, right? Like I just took what I learned from Steve Pavlina and then the Ikigai and all these other things that I was curious about over the course of 8 years and my own, curiosity. But now we're getting into understanding story, right? And this is where a lot of these Hollywood kind of things are stored, like these information people have about acting and, and story and all these nuanced, very human kind of like things. And really developing right from that place of, okay, I know who I am. I'm aware. Now I can develop who I am and into so much more and weave a story and weave a tapestry, right? Like into the Joseph Campbell stuff. Because that course that I took was Joseph Campbell and Carl Jung. Like those were the two people that Sam Christensen took and made his model after through the archetypes of Carl Jung. And then all of Joseph Campbell's, mythic and story structure stuff. So bringing those two worlds together, purpose, story, and then service, right? Like leveraging our story in order to help to serve others. So we're stacking here. And so, that's really kind of where we're headed from here, and just adding and developing more and more. So the self-help and self-development, two aspects working together, understanding that like we're never going to be perfect, and that's okay. Like when you first start out in the sort of the self-help world, you're like, oh, I have to be like this perfect person. My higher self is very pious. My higher self would never want to sniff a spice or, play with have fun in a field or frolic around or skinny dip. What a terrible thing. No, your higher self is here to have experiences.
Higher self is cheeky.
A range of them, exactly, and have fun and experience.
The person you are in your dreams is who you are. So that person is usually a lot different than who you show the world.
Yeah, for most people. Yeah, when you allow yourself to reframe and to like embody that, that's when you really start to like. You're like, oh, and that's when you shine. There's a fun thing about that I've been working on, help with wearing masks, and I like it. It's like this essences. That sounds so much better. But like practicing playing back and forth with embodying the mask of somebody who is whatever, like the Virgo characteristic or whatever you want to call it, but like wear that mask, try it on and see what it feels like. Okay, does this feel good? Does this fit? Does this feel like something? What kind of traits of this can I embody? And because like there's an aspect of ourselves, our soul, that is living out that frequency in other, and so we can bring that in and then become like super us, and like bring in all the aspects to come together to create this like superhuman with. Because this is the realm where like we're calling in this purpose, but probably in the other one, but we're the ones here. We're like, oh, I need a little bit of that. So I'm going to try that on and see how it fits. And
yeah, we have so many options and fun things to try, and try it on, see what fits with you and all that. I mean, it was so helpful to understand how other people, see you. Like the first thing in that workshop, and it was pretty unnerving actually. The first thing was we just went on stage and sat there quiet for 1 minute while everyone went through an entire list of characteristics and just ticked off all the boxes, right? And so then you take all 12 or 13 or 14 people who are in there and you tally all those up, and then you see which characteristics you have the most of.
Didn't you name one that you were like something they called you. I can't remember, and it was like a puppy or something.
Yeah, that was so one of the things they ask you is, what do you never want to be called? And I said, a puppy.
Yeah.
And of course it came up. Everyone's comes up, right? Like it just does. But they reframed that for me.
Right.
They even wrote an essence statement in there that was like, I think it was blustery winds blew and lightning crashed. The sky cracked open and a puppy emerged. So they took the whole thing and they reframed it in this mysterious, way that was really beautiful and juxtaposed. And I'm like, all right, I don't feel so bad being likable, and like, having like a little bit of emotional support animal energy. It could be way worse, and I understand it, right? Like I get it. Like I exude some warmth. And as a bald white guy, right, that's a good thing to be able to have on stage, right? Like I was
white guy in Georgia.
Exactly. I was thinking that I came across one way on stage just because of my look, when in reality my energy is very warm and gooey, and so if I go with that, then it's a completely different. And then if I confirm that for the audience and say, hey, I'm very like warm and friendly. I'm the kind of guy who you go get a beer with, and then I'll sell you a Harley. Then we are on the same page, right? Like they're like, oh, you've confirmed who I think you are for me, and then so now we can kind of move on, and I can talk about all these weird butthole things, and then it just gets more and more bizarre as the night goes on. But again, just having that awareness, that perspective, it can be really, really helpful. And then it all started with purpose, right? Like that's the first part of that picture, is like figuring that out. And at least that was my experience, right? Like, and I say it a million times, find it however you can.
And can I add to that too, really quick? It really boils down to finding what serves you, what serves your soul first. And from that, so it sounds, selfish, but really, self is who we are. We are the main character of our own story, right? But find what serves you. And then when you find that like everything, service to others, it comes from that. And that's basically what you're going to be about, because what makes your soul sing is what your gift is to everyone else.
Yeah. That's so good.
And purpose is a verb. Mm-hmm. What do you do that makes you happy?
Yeah. Win, 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 right? So you're serving yourself and others. It's something that you can do and that other people benefit from. And very often, again, like that big clue of like, what is it that you don't, that you take for granted that you can do, right? Like that's such a good question to ask, because that's that thing often that's so valuable, and people don't realize how valuable what they have to offer is if it comes easy to them. So, other questions, tons of questions, how did you play when you were younger? What did you want to do when you were a kid? These all can help to tease out this idea, but ultimately it's up to you to design something or create something that works for you. And that could be an image, that could be a statement, that could be a single word. They used to do that in the Sam Christensen thing where they would say, your word is this, or whatever. They didn't do that this time. They were like, here, you're more than one word. I'm like, thank you. That's very nice of you. But
multidimensional.
Exactly. But all those essences were incredibly beautiful and descriptive. And once again, juxtaposing some of the things that we might be self-conscious about, or maybe a little bit vulnerable, about having it brought up. But reframing that and putting it in a different context is cool too. And also that self-awareness. One of the stories that they told us, and this stuck with me, all of Matt's stories really stuck with me, but one of the ones that they told us was about this lady who was she was like a corporate business lady, and she was kind of like long and lean looking, and she was telling her statement, and she went home, and her boyfriend knew about the workshop and what it was. Like he knew all about it. He was like, so tell me about the workshop. And she goes, he goes, what was your statement or whatever? And she goes, my love life is like a gazelle trapped on a balcony, and he went on one knee and proposed to her. And she was like, "Oh my God, you said we'd never get married. We've been together for like 5 years. We were never going to get married." He goes, "I didn't know you knew that about yourself."
What?
Yeah. So, I mean, that gift of awareness, of being seen and seeing ourselves, I mean, it goes a long way. You know, it really does. It's a big piece of leverage as far as the mentality aspect goes. If you know something about yourself, you're like, "All right, cool, I got this." It's, you know, I know how I'm coming off and all this. Then you can use that as leverage, and you can have like little things that you could say that you could even, in fact, they made us pick out a whole bunch of different words that we thought were intriguing. This is an intriguing words list. So all the ones that I highlighted are cool. And so you could even, up to and including, customize your vocabulary if you wanted, and speak in a certain way that's unique to you to express your essence, your individuality, who you are, which I think is brilliant. And I haven't really drilled down into that, but it's a genius idea and something that I never ever thought about before, you know, but part of that whole thing. Anyway, we keep losing James, and, you know, I can read the signs, and I'm also tired and like really hot. I understand why people drink so much in the South now.
Alcohol or just
Yeah.
drink in general?
Well, both really, but yeah, alcohol. I can see it. I'm like, okay, I get it. Yeah, I'd be mad too if I was this hot. You know what I mean? Like, this is terrible. Like, my AC is
My
like
normal state,
cranking.
y'all. Just kidding.
Yeah, pardon me. Don't mind me. No, y'all are awesome. Thanks so much for coming to hang out. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, my honor. Y'all are amazing. Tiff, what are you working on, and where can people find you?
I am embodied _ just embodied soul goddess at www.com thing. And then you can find all my stuff. I have a link tree, and it has like all the things. I do TikTok. I do free stuff on TikTok and post messages, but I'm writing a book. I'm working on a program that is going to bring in other teachers. Like, I have somebody who does a sovereign mind method, and well, I haven't asked him yet. And
He's gonna say yeah.
And I'm creating, and then I'm like also simultaneously working on the book and retreats. So I have like retreats that I'm planning in Sedona and in Joshua Tree and Austin, obviously. So like a bunch of things, but the program is going to launch pretty soon because I just came to the conclusion, or was gifted with the awareness, that like you don't have to have it fully finished to launch it. You just have to have it started and let it be organic with like who you're bringing into it. So I was like, oh, that's really awesome. So that allows my creative mind to go. And so right now I'm in the process of talking with my inner manager, and like kind of, because it's like a few different things, and narrowing the focus to which needs to come first. So I do higher self-embodiment work. And that's like the play that I do with people. And when you're in person, if I ever get to get my hands on you, intuitive body work, touch with channeling and messages, I'm like an in-person. I'm just like, you know, it's like juicy and tantric and fun, and it's like, oh, I love it.
It's so good you can't even describe it. That's how awesome it is. You know, like that's what I'm talking about. That's the kind of thing that we want to get to, right? Like words don't work anymore when you know it does. Like I have a statement, because like it helps me to remember, but like eventually, like that embodiment, it's just always there. And you know, the more we lick the lollipop. Abbie, tell us where people can find you and what you're working on.
You can find me at Abstract1 on Instagram, and I'm currently just working with the Dream Coven experiment. We're getting ready to possibly start reading a second book. We're doing book studies, but these books really have awesome dream experiments. So it's a good group of people that are willing to share their dreams, and also, you know, try things, try really cool, crazy experiments that are pretty mind blowing. So
When are the dates again? Because the last time I wasn't able to do it because I had previous commitment, but those are freeing up now. So I want to pop in on that. When is it?
it was on Thursdays, and now we're gonna probably we do a Telegram chat. So there is a Telegram chat, but then we are. I don't know when we're gonna resume calls, but we're kind of looking to see what time would be better for everyone. So
I mean, I'm down for this Thursday. Like Darby was saying, 10 Eastern would work for her because I think that's right when she gets off or whatever. That would be 30 minutes past. And I might actually be able to hop on that. I might be done doing comedy by then, you know. I'm trying to keep my nights open so I can keep doing, you know, the stand-ups stuff. And, but that said, you know, it's something that people are really getting a lot out of. And then, you know, I will be there as much as humanly possible. And yeah, people share in the chat too. So they'll, you know, list their dream and stuff. I'll send you a link. You know, anybody who's part of our network is welcome to join, and just send me a DM message and you can hop in there and we'll get you going, or hit up Abbie. Yeah, and James, I think he's having some Wi-Fi deal. So you can find him at Sonic Portal on Instagram, and we're in the Facebook group and Telegram group and all these groups. Have a Discord too. It's a lot of groups. We're really trying to focus on one group. I'm really focusing on Telegram as much as possible because my tech friends at Content Safe, they tell me that is the most secure platform. My uncle's also a computer programmer. He likes Telegram. He's building his own server on there, open source, which is kind of cool. So, you know, that is maybe a better platform than some of the others platforms, depending on which ones you use and like. But we are all over the place as well. Come and check us out. BlueCollarMystics.org, BlueCollarMystics.org/blueprint, and get your blueprint PDF plus 8 module course. And we're working on a lot of other really, really cool stuff. Come and hang out with us. Let's learn about the blueprint. Hop on a call with me. Shoot me a DM or just go to my link tree or whatever, and you can book a call with me. We can talk about it. Talk about where you are, where you're going, and if we can help you get there. Some of the things that we're going to start incorporating are pretty freaking out of sight, and I'm very excited to grow. So thanks, everybody, very much for checking out this podcast and for just being your awesome self. Find your purpose, find your crew of people, and let's fucking rage, all right? Let's do this. Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful night, and we'll see you next time. Peace.